Some people say that with the technology that we have today, that we have lost our physical voices. They say that technology has taken over and that we have lost the ability to communicate with each other on a personal level. And some say that that only applies to millennials. So today, I will be talking about millennials and physical voice versus digital voice. Everyone communicates one way or another, whether it's with our voice, on paper, or through a digital device. We were made to communicate, and everyone has their own preferred method of communicating. Each one of us here today came from different eras, anywhere from the 1940s to the 2000s, and each generation had or has their preferred method of communicating. And this is usually the method that they grew up around. For example, the silent generation, those born between 1928 and 1945. Their method of communication included a phone on the wall or handwritten letters aided by old typewriters and mimeograph machines. Radio and newspaper were their only source of national news, plus the Saturday newsreels at the local theater. Baby boomers who were born between 1946 and 1964 had mail. Channel television was rare in homes, radio, and by mid-range of this era, they had a pickup of the use of email and checking emails from home. Most liked e-newsletters, and some liked phone calls and using their landlines for most calls and their cell phones for when they were away from home. Most had answering machines and checked them frequently. Most from this generation are starting to use Facebook. Some are active and some seldom use it at all. Most prefer face-to-face communication. Very few use Twitter. Some text, but mostly to communicate with their children or grandchildren. Skype is used for some with family that live out of the area. Most use the internet for checking out companies and organizations. This era also prefers handwritten thank you notes. To Generation X, or those born between 1965 and 1980, email is the more preferred communication. Pretty much everyone has it by now. Most people have multiple email accounts, and most everyone uses Facebook more than text, especially with family. This era doesn't like using abbreviations in emails and texts as much as the millennial generation. Most have cell phones and home landlines. More than one small television is found in the homes. Generation Y, or millennials, was born around 1981 to 2000. The text is regular communication by now. Everyone has email. Many have multiple email accounts and some use more than others. Most use Facebook. Many text to communicate with family. This era uses abbreviation in text and email communication. Most have cell phones, and most do not have a home landline. They seldom check their voicemail messages or any type of messages. Most are on Facebook. They check websites and use the web as a number of sources for information. Income affects the extent of electronics. Don't assume that all have cell phones and text because income is a factor. And some have to give up cell phones due to cost. If it can be afforded, many have iPhones, iPod Touch, or other ways to connect to the internet and email with handheld devices for even more immediate communication. What are millennials? Millennials are those born between 1980 and 2000, like I said before, and are also known as Generation Y, and at times they are also called the digital native. A digital native is someone who was raised in a digital media saturated world, though not all digital natives are millennials. For example, the members of the newest generation, or Generation Z, are also digital natives. Generation Z is those born from 2000 to today. According to some studies, Millennials are usually characterized as technology-sophisticated multitaskers, capable of significant contributions to tomorrow's organization, yet deficient in communication skills. In other words, millennials are good with technology and bad with people. Now that we know what millennials are and what they are considered to be like, let's talk about the pros and cons of electronic communication. Electronic communication has its good and bad qualities. The pros of electronic communication are that within only a few seconds you can get a message to someone anywhere. If you are in the news biz, you can get a hint on a big scoop within 2 seconds after it happens. Or if you're a cop, you can know about a crime while it is still occurring. And with most communication, you can talk to anyone anywhere. It is wide and global. The cons are that you can't always get your electronic device to do what you want it to do. Sometimes you lose important messages or data. So as you can see, the pros and cons are about even. Some people might think that the cons outweigh the pros or vice versa. The truth is that we live in a day and age where electronic communication is a must. It links everything. But that doesn't mean that we have to lose our physical voice to compensate for our growing digital one. Now that people think that this has already happened to millennials, I guess I can't say much about whether it's true or not. I'm a millennial, and I'm the type of person that would rather type out something because it keeps me from saying something or sounding mean or uneducated. I've learned that sometimes the best way to keep from losing your physical voice is to just get out there and communicate. I stepped out of my device and into the world, and for lack of a better word, forced myself to communicate with people. With a media major like mine, I have to. You can't really interview someone over an email or text message because, like I said before, it's easy to fool people in a message. You can see a lot more when you're sitting in front of someone, or at least hear them over the phone. So, in conclusion, there are a lot of ways to communicate depending on what line of work you are in. Will depend on what you might need or even prefer. The best way to learn those skills is to just dive in. You learn from doing. Most people do. Thank you.